Welcome back. It's time to get into an interactive segment where we're going to be talking about the state of affairs in the Kenyan Premier League and also speak about the continental assignment that Gor Mahia and Bandari have. Gor Mahia playing against DC Motema Pembe of the DRC, and Bandari have traveled to Conakry where they play against Horoya of Guinea. And to speak about that, let me bring in a football analyst, Steve Ayoo. Welcome to KBC Channel 1.
Thank you.
Yes,
and pleasure.
Yes, yeah. And Steve, this is a season that has started, how would I say, not how people would like it in the KPL.
Yeah.
We have already seen 3 matches end in walkovers. 2 by Sony Sugar and 1 by Chemelil Sugar. Is it the feel that people really want in the sport?
Definitely, it's a very unfortunate situation. Remember, this is something that not any club really wants. No club really wants to give a walkover, especially if you are a club like Sony Sugar, who have already won the Kenyan Premier League, which makes them, one of the top teams in Kenyan football. It was a very unfortunate situation, especially given the fact that they were playing at home. That's totally unheard of.
That was for the first game against AFC Leopards.
AFC Leopards traveled all the way from Nairobi to Sony, only for the home team not to turn up. That was really, really shocking, and no one was really surprised when they didn't turn up for that Tusker game. But that already leaves them in such a bad situation, because one more walkover and they'd be knocked out of the league. And you always want to fall off because your performances really weren't quite good. We've seen the likes of Leeds United, the likes of Juventus, who are relegated at some point in time due to a scandal.
Yes.
Yeah, if you are to be relegated because you can't honor your matches, I think that's really unfortunate, and that's something that Sony should try as much as possible to avoid. And also, given the fact that it's pretty much clubs from the Sugar Belt region. You're talking about Chemelil Sugar, you're talking about Sony Sugar. It shows that those clubs are really, really, really struggling, and somebody needs to come to their help.
What makes Nzoia different from the other 2 Sugar Belt clubs?
I think it's also about the management, and also basically the players also, because people play football for different reasons. There's those who play it for the money, there are those who play it for motivation, and also just, build yourself as a player. So if I am a Nzoia Sugar player, I'm looking at that club and I'm like, let me just give my best. And probably if at the end of the season everything goes well, I might be sold to a different club. We saw Elvis Rupia leaving Nzoia and going abroad and actually coming back to Azito. So I think it also depends on the management and basically whose pockets are deep enough. With Nzoia, we don't know where they get their money. We don't know where Zukaricho get their money, because there are clubs also, they are very, very far away from Nairobi or Nairobi region where most games are normally played. So I think it also depends on the will and the factor of those people who are actually in charge of the game in those specific clubs.
And talking about the scenario as to why we are at this point, 3 years ago, SuperSport withdrew from broadcasting the Kenyan Premier League matches on a simple reason. Who owns football in the country? The rightful owners, and that's a communication that they sent, was a clear demarcation that the rightful owners should actually be Football Kenya Federation. That's a communication that came through after a series of court battles about the expansion from the 16-team to the 18-team league, the push and pull, everything, and they withdrew. And after that, title sponsors have gone. Yeah. They've had different title sponsors, 2 to be specific. But with the withdrawal of this, everyone's asking, why doesn't anyone want to touch Kenyan football with their money?
Yeah, and you really have to look at the reason why SuperSport actually left, because if you look at it from a business perspective, it means that they were not getting the returns. Because honestly, I cover the Kenyan football every single time, and you always go to those stadiums and you don't find, you will probably just be there and a couple of journalists and just a couple of fans. So in a stadium, you're finding a game, even a big game, a so-called derby between Mathare United and Kariobangi Sharks, you're finding only 200 people on the pitch, as fans. Compare that to, say, even the Soweto derby. There's, I think, a Telecom knockout tournament that's coming up very soon. And
no, actually,
it was sold out in 3 hours. Yeah,
4 hours, 44,000 tickets gone.
They were gone. Here, even if you tell fans you come to the stadium, it's free. Come with your families. No one really wants to come in. So there's really, really such a big problem, and it's innate. I think it's just in us also, as football fans also, you have to really question ourselves, because some of these games are actually free. We should have that motivation to actually just turn up and go and watch some of these matches.
But if you were to talk about that, if I was to go back 8-9 years when we had midweek matches being played in Nairobi at the Nyayo National Stadium, and we even had the night matches being played, the crowds were there. people would come and watch City Stars playing against Sofapaka.
Yeah.
People would come and watch, Mathare United
And
playing against Tusker.
That's
and
where
the
we
crowds
need,
were there.
That's where we need to really take a step back and ask ourselves, where did we go wrong? Where did those fans go? What actually pushed them away from the stadiums? And I think that's a question that we should direct it to KPL and should also direct it to the Football Kenya Federation, because they are one entity, to be honest. There's no FKF without KPL, and there's no KPL without FKF. So we really need to sit back and ask ourselves, where did we go wrong? Because, I mean, the only game that actually gets attended these days, in numbers, is the derby, AFC Leopards versus Gor Mahia. If you want to find another game or another team that probably, draws in fans, you are talking about Zuke Richo, because almost all their home matches are normally full to capacity. So we also need to talk to the likes of the good chairman of Zuke Richo, Mr. Ken Ochieng, ask him what are you doing that we can actually copy. And it's also unfortunate, Mr. Wahome, that teams like Kariobangi Sharks, Mathare United, they've been quite in this game for quite some time. And where are the fans? That's
Why is
what
the crowd
asking
appeal? Because the other thing is there isn't noise. We don't fight banter. Or even the noise. For example, AS Roma now even have a Swahili handle. They have an English handle.
Yeah.
It's one that you really want, to follow and see what they are doing. Where is the noise in our clubs? I think Gor Mahia makes enough noise.
Yeah, I think also there's also the fact that I don't think our clubs normally hire professionals. Most of the people that you find working for these clubs, in terms of probably even handling their social media channels, are people who are fans. Basically, I'll just go in there, I'll be given the login details for the Twitter account or the Facebook account. And, whenever I feel like I can just post in something there. If you look at a club like Gor Mahia, until there was some sort of a robe on who owns which platform, they used to actually even give you live updates of matches. And, as a journalist, you'll always be looking at their Twitter handle and seeing, what's really happening. The only club that's doing that right now, I think, is Wazito FC. And you can't blame. That's why I was saying it's more of fans doing it than professionals, because, I'm sure there are a number of my colleagues that I know have actually even pitched ideas to some of these clubs to, professionally run their accounts, and they're not willing to invest. So you find that this season probably Sofapaka has a media team who are really handling things professionally. The next season they're not there. Today Sofapaka has a couple of people who are beating drums inside the stadium, rallying the teams. The next game they're not there. So I think everything is just being done haphazardly. People are just trying to find quick solutions. We are not looking at long term. We are not planning anything long term.
And overall, even when it comes to the national team, where are the crowds? Because 3, 4, 5 years ago, we would have a crowd of 30,000, 40,000. The last friendlies basically did not look good on TV.
Yeah.
The crowds in the stadiums changed the whole perspective.
What also happens with in terms of fans coming to the stadium, it's also about results. If you're always drawing the way, honestly, Harambee Stars is always drawing matches, they've only started losing lately, then I won't be coming to that stadium to watch a 0-0 draw or a 1-1 draw. Fans always want that level of entertainment. And if you look at the last friendly that we played against Mozambique,
Yes.
we were asleep in the first half. We only woke up after the second half. Despite losing that much, fans were like, okay, we can see there's something really that's going on in here. So probably that will push them to come in for the next game. And that is exactly also what happens. If you look at AFC Leopards, I've followed their matches. I keep covering them almost all the time. When that team is winning, the number of fans that even make the trip from Nairobi to Machakos is normally quite commendable. You'll go in there and you'll see the terrace end has numbers, the VIP end has numbers. But the moment results, they're stringing in 2, 3, 4 draws and are defeating there, you see the fans disappear. So fans also, you don't want to go to the pitch, you're spending your money, energy, effort and time to go to the pitch, then you come back and you feel worse than when you went to the stadium.
And behind the scenes, what's the one simple thing, if we were to talk about the KPL as it is, to have it go forward? It's not easy to structure a deal for 18 teams, considering that the last TV deal guaranteed a club 7.5 million shillings a season, and now that one's gone. The title sponsors were there, which means they would chip in. So clubs would make 10 million shillings a season. That's about $1 million a month. But what needs to be done for the league to be as attractive as it was?
I think everyone at KPL, actually, they are shaking in their boots, because even then they're asking themselves, what can we do? That's the question that I think even FKF are asking themselves, because remember even the Football Kenya Federation, and I'm sure you've seen quite a number of posts, them saying that they don't have money. So if the federation doesn't have money, and these are a setup that is actually being bankrolled by the World Football Governing Body, FIFA, then you wonder of KPL.
No, but their grants are very targeted, 1.25 million shillings in forward money, and some of it includes, I mean, if you don't have a women's league, you don't get money for the women's league.
Yeah.
That's clear from the FIFA Council.
Of which we have a women's league.
So they get the funding for that. Kenya gets the FIFA forward money, but if you look at it and the demands for 1.4 billion.
Yeah, the demands
shilling.
The demands outstrips the supply. You know, that's the fact of the matter right now. You know, the amount of money that is needed to run these clubs or the leagues the league in itself is actually so much more than what's coming in, and that's why you find that at the end of the season, the winner of the title, the winner of the Kenyan Premier League gets is it 4 million shillings?
4 million shillings. Yes.
That one, if you are to go to Bandari for a Go TV or rather a Shield match, and also you go back again to Bandari for a KPL match, it's finished. That money is gone. So I think it's a question also to the Kenyan Premier League. We need to repackage this league for us. We need to repackage it. We need to market it. We need to try as much as possible to talk to as many corporates as possible, because that's where money is, to be honest. That's where money is. We need the likes of Safaricom, the likes of Tusker, you know, to just come back in and invest in this game. But then, you know, as we said, what's the return on investment? If I'm a bank, or an insurance company, I'm looking at this club, I'm like, I want to invest my money on Sofapaka. I want to sponsor them. But then at the end of the day, I want to get some of those Sofapaka funds to actually turn into customers. But then you go into that stadium, you find that the only Sofapaka fans are like 5 people, and they're the only ones who come to the match. Why would they put my money on that club? So I think it's something that we are struggling with, and we need to look at it in two perspectives. First of all, we need to ensure that the employees, like think about even Tusker. It's such a big brand, you know, they have the supply is countrywide. Imagine if just the employees themselves were made to feel like they're part of the club, so that they're always coming into the matches, even if it means incentivizing them, you know, for them to attend. Then they come with their families. Then also the players themselves, they also have to take responsibility. You know, they ensure that whenever they're going to play for some of these matches, invite your friends to come over, make noise over you. You know, it motivates you. You know, that's why a club like AFC Leopards and Gor will always post better results as compared to a club that doesn't have fans, because they'll always push you. Fans will always push you to be better. And most of the teams we have so far, they don't have those numbers behind them.
Speaking about Tusker FC and Gor Mahia, there's one club and there's something common between the two clubs. Tomorrow, Gor Mahia will be playing DC Motema Pembe. And 26 years ago, DC Motema Pembe, they drew 2-2 with then Kenya Breweries in the final of this competition, the CAF Confederation Cup. Kenya Breweries were about to win it, but then when they came to Nairobi, DC Motema Pembe did something great. They won by 3-1, and overall, they went home with that title. DC Motema Pembe are back and they're playing against Gor Mahia. Is the current Gor Mahia squad up to it? You know, even knowing some of the backstories about the captain and the assistant captain not showing up for training.
You'll think so. I remember that Gor Mahia, the last 2, 3, 4 years, actually, they've shown that they're one of Africa's best clubs. If you look at the rankings for the clubs, they I think among the top 25, which tells you, the progress that they've been making. And that has only been possible due to the fact that they've been winning the league. You win the league, you get a chance to play in the Champions League, the CAF Champions League. You drop from there the way they dropped to get a chance to play in the CAF Confederations Cup. Basically, just the way it happens in the European Champions League and the Europa League. So for them, I think so far they've posted good results. They put Kenyan football into the African map back again, because you remember the days when they used to even win the Mandela Cup.
Yeah, they won the Mandela Cup in '87. Kenyan clubs were continental quarter-finalists.
Exactly. AFC Leopards, were winning CECAFA titles back to back. I think there's a time they even won 3 in a row. So we need to get back into those levels, and I think so far Gor Mahia have shown that we are capable. Despite all the shenanigans, despite all the backroom problems, players sleeping on airports and all that, they've really tried so far, to be honest. And now we have to ask ourselves, how long can they sustain it? Because they'll not only be traveling to the Bandaris now, they have to travel outside Africa. That means, flights, and that's quite expensive. And with the title sponsor, their shirt sponsor also gone, it leaves them in such a precarious position.
Bandari making another entry to continental football. They're playing against Horoya of Guinea. Horoya, former African champions, they were playing, you know, at the highest level last season, in the previous season. Do Bandari have the caliber to play against Horoya and get past them?
Yeah, of course. For me, I think Bandari, so far they are playing like they have nothing to lose. I remember this is only their, I think, second appearance in this kind of competition.
Second, yes.
Yeah, second appearance in this kind of competition. So for them, it's just a case of, let's go enjoy ourselves, boys. And that's why they actually went away in the previous match and got a result. You know, no one really expected that. So for them, it's just a case of taking one game at a time. You know, you go away, you try to get a result. You know, the trick with the African club competitions is that when you go away, you try to get an away goal. Yeah, or try to get a victory, which is normally almost impossible for all teams, even when they're coming from North Africa to East Africa. I mean, forget about what Algiers did to us the other day.
I was about to come to that.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah, so for Bandari, I think it's just a case of them enjoying it. If you see that team, I think they're just working together so well. They know that they're going to each match as the underdogs because, you know, for them, they don't have experience in this competition. So, boys, let's just go in there, give our best. They have some very good players, the likes of Abdallah and the likes of Sami Major, you know, who will always give you 100% in each and every game that they turn up in. So for me, I think it's just a case of, as I've said, taking it one game at a time, enjoy yourselves, and you never know, just one more step, and then the group stages, which is quite lucrative.
So which of the two is going to make it to a group stage, Gor or Bandari?
I want both of them.
Both of
them. They are both capable, and I hope that we'll have the two of them in the group stages.
Well, thank you very much, Steve Ayoo, for your time. He hopes to have Bandari and Gorma in the group stages of the CAF Confederation Cup. And you know, you've got to understand this. The matches in the CAF Confederation Cup are played specifically on Sunday afternoons and evenings and Wednesday nights. So you can imagine the kind of Wednesday nights and Sunday afternoons we would have in Nairobi if Bandari and Gor Mahia do qualify for that competition. We would have the best of African football coming to this country, which means 6 matches guaranteed. Let's see what happens as they play over the next two legs over the next 2 weekends. That's been a conversation about the state of Kenyan football, the Kenyan Premier League. They're saying, actually, we need the money and we need it so soon. Thank you very much, Steve, again. Our sign language interpreter has been Steve Dunde. On behalf of Michael Anka, Purity Museo, and the team that put together this bulletin, I want to wish you a good night.